only a 9-hole golf course. It has hosted 5 Open Championships, and it's been there since the 1850s. So very special, very interesting. If you didn't know the history of it and you drove by, you'd call it a cow pasture, which pretty much is, but it's a beautiful one.
Welcome back again to this week's edition of the Cart Barn Podcast. Chris Lemley and Greg DeWalt, we thank you so much for joining us. Greg, we had a friend of the podcast who won his first senior major yesterday, Stuart Sink. That was such a wonderful time watching him come down the stretch and set the course record at Concession, aka Concussion Golf Course.
Yeah, it was to see the way he lapped the field on the final day was kind of incredible. I did some research. His 63 was 3 shots better than the next closest round on Sunday, and only 9 people broke 70 in the final round. So you put that in perspective, and that's like that's like shooting 55 or something in comparison. Just an amazing final round for the friend of our podcast, Stuart Sink, long time. Hope he listens to us. I hope he doesn't come on and just not ever listen to us. But great to see him win his first senior major. 17 years since his last major at the Open Championship at Turnberry.
Yeah, he played really well. Yeah, just super happy for Stuart's win.
I don't know how many feet of putts he made in the final round, but it had to be up there a lot.
It was a lot.
Those weren't tap-in birdies he was making. They were 15, 20-footers and a couple of longer bombs. So anyway, congrats to Stuart, and hopefully we'll get him on here to talk about everything going on with him right now. I wrote a story for my website, and I thought the senior tour is basically, it's his playground right now, and he's just letting everybody else play on it. So, but good for him. So, but let's just dive into this week's episode. We've got a guest I've been eager to have on for a while, Lawrence Auer lives in Mobile now, but he's from Australia. So we're going worldwide again on the Cart Barn this week. Great guy, been a long time pro down at in Mobile at a couple of munis. So came over from Australia, basically ended up staying here, and now he forged out a nice career. And he's got some really interesting stuff to talk about. And I think everybody will enjoy this week's episode. So let's just dive on in with Lawrence Auer from Mobile, Alabama, via Australia.
Welcome back, everyone. Greg and I are pleased to be joined by Lawrence Auer. Lawrence, welcome to the Cart Barn.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you guys, chatting in the Cart Barn.
Thanks for joining us. We're interested to for this conversation, get some insight from you. Lawrence, you're PGA Life Member, which means A, you're old, and B, you've had a nice career as a golf professional, and you spent about 30 years, a little bit more than 30 years down in the Mobile area at some munis. So why don't we dive in, just give us a little bit about your background, how you got into golf, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was born in Australia, so I am Australian, if you can't tell. Started golf at an early age, started playing right before I turned 9 years old. And part of that was I was invited by a friend to come to the golf course, and it was walking distance from our home. And the golf course that I grew up at had the big 18-hole course, but it also had a 9-hole short course. So the members didn't mind if there were kids over playing on the 9-hole course. And we also caddied back then. So this is right when golf cars were just starting to show up in Australia. So we were caddies at the golf course and did all that, and made some extra money and played golf, and just went from there. So, by the time I was probably 14 years old, it was all golf. The other participation sports had gone away, and I was focusing on that.
What was the key to that kind of instilled your love for the game right away?
I really enjoyed, just first of all being outdoors, like most people would tell you, but the challenge of golf drew me to it. And I think, just my personality, individual sports were more appealing than the team sports. I did both, but being able to go and play golf and practice golf whenever you wanted, after school, weekends, all of that, when I look back, that was a big draw for me, that I could just go do it, whether I was with my siblings or with friends or not, or just by myself. So that was a big appeal to me.
What other sports were you trying to play? Rugby,
Well,
cricket?
yes, so a couple that we don't see much of over here. So the team sports were cricket and rugby. So I lived in a rugby area, so I grew up playing those. And I think that was when I gravitated to golf. I'm 13, 14 years old, and medium size at best, and all of a sudden you're playing against kids that are much bigger than you. So golf became attractive. Also did swimming, which is big in Australia, low key competitive swimming. And tennis I would be my other sport, my fun sport. So had a variety of activities, did a little bit of everything. But as I said, by 14 years old, I was playing competitive junior golf and wanting to do well at that. Had a handicap and trying to improve and compete, and a little bit of traveling and all that type of thing.
What course did you grow up on, and what part of Australia?
So I am from Brisbane, which is on the east coast, and it's right kind of in the middle of the country, up the east coast, north of Sydney. And Brisbane is actually hosting the 2032 Olympics. So after we go to LA in 2028, the following Summer Olympics will be in Brisbane. And I grew up at the Brisbane Golf Club, which, as I said, was walking distance from our home. So 10-minute walk, or straight after school, I could be there. So, and Brisbane's a large metropolitan area, so we have about 25 golf courses in the area. So was able to get around and play, junior golf at those, and you start making friends and playing the different courses. But I was a member at Brisbane Golf Club.
Hmm.
Was golf? Were there a bunch of other juniors that you played with at the golf club, or did you gravitate to the guys groups?
No, it was very much junior golf. So um, we got to play with members and that kind of thing, but there were quite a few junior golfers there. So guys under the age of college age and lower. So always able to just go out there and play golf. And we had even competitive junior events at our club. So it was quite healthy, and it still is to this day. When I go visit, they have dozens of juniors out there playing golf and practicing and all those things. So it's a good environment to grow up in.
Lawrence, who were some of the golfers you idolized back in those early?
Well, I grew up. So Greg Norman is from that Brisbane area. So when I was a young person, so when I was 12 years old, he was one of the best um, young golfers in our state. So got to watch him when he was 16, 17, 18 years old playing golf, and he was impressive back then. Um, the other Australians that were out there were, Greg Norman was big. I was always a huge Tom Watson fan growing up. For me, and then Severiano Ballesteros came onto the scene, so he was exciting, and he would come visit Australia. So got to watch those guys,
Mhm.
and just a big deal. But I was a big Tom Watson fan, um, Greg Norman fan back there, just because I tell people I knew him. He didn't know me, but he knew me well enough to like give me a nod and a smile when he was, even when he was into his 20s and that kind of thing. He knew who I was.
That's pretty cool. Australia, this time of year, I guess we're coming into spring. Down there, you're going into fall, winter, maybe.
Yes, it is.
So watching the Masters this time of year, and everything's coming to life here in America, and down there it's right the opposite. That had to be a little weird.
A little bit, but the area I'm from is subtropical, so our weather kind of
Mm.
passes each other. So our Aprils are very similar. We're heading into cooler weather, whereas you're coming into warmer weather. And then Octobers are similar.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite. We're coming into warmer weather, and over here you're coming into cooler weather. So, Augusta being green, everything's still green where I was from growing up. So those things are similar. Um, but things, where I played, we're on Bermuda and Bermuda greens and all that kind of stuff. So summertime it was dark green, wintertime it just went, a lighter shade of green. So we played year round, obviously. So good golfing environment.
Was there a club pro at that kind of you consider your mentor that kind of took you under his wing and helped you navigate the game?
Yeah, at Brisbane Golf Club, and this was very common for courses in Australia, there was a head golf professional, a really good guy who, mentored me along, but they always had a couple of assistant golf professionals there as well. So growing up, we always had two golf professionals and then a full-time teaching professional. So I'd get to play with the assistant golf professionals who probably had more of an influence because I played with them a great deal. And what's been very gratifying and enjoying is some of those have come and visited me over here, being over here for different reasons, and they've come and stayed in Mobile, including the head golf professional that back in the day went to Champions Tour Q School, and he arrived here and spent some time with us and Thanksgiving and all that kind of thing. So it's nice to go the full circle and then go back and visit and meet up with some of those guys and play with them and talk about the good old days, back in the 70s and 80s and that kind of thing. So yes, a lot of influence, a lot
Yeah.
of active with assistant golf professionals and even caddying for those guys in tournaments. So that was my growing up as a 15, 16, 17-year-old.
When did you make the pilgrimage to the States?
So I came here first in 1983, and back then, the cool thing to do, you watch golf on TV and you hear about this player being from Ohio State and this player from Wake Forest and those kind of things. So you always thought, okay, there's this college golf scene going on over there. And when I came over, there was probably about 24 young Australian players that were over here at different places. So I came over in 1983, chose to go to South Alabama, and part of it was because they had a good program, but I wanted to be on the team and play. It's really cool to go to top 10 university in the country, but if you're the number 8 guy on the team, that's no deal. So I went to South Alabama and was able to play in all the tournaments and compete and would bump into Australian friends while I was over here, which was fun. So enjoyed my time at South Alabama. And then I went back to Australia and ended up started working in golf and then came back to the United States more for a visit, but kind of had a couple of ideas and came back in the very late 1980s and ended up back in Mobile and still there to this day. So that's my back and forth.
I'm uh, I'm just going to bet that with your Australian accent, you didn't have any trouble getting dates in at while you were at South Alabama.
So I was able to get them, but once they got to know my personality, it kind of went downhill from there. So talking to girls worked out good, and I'm making fun of myself, but it's overall it's been a positive. When people know who you are, most of the time it's a positive. You know, having the accent, you can't get away with anything on the telephone. They know who they're talking to. So, but overall, it's been people have been very accepting and very positive of the Australian accent. Although I've been here so long now, when I go back home and visit and I'm talking to people over there, I do get people asking me where am I from. So when I tell them I'm from right here, in Australia, they shake their head and say, "No, you're not. There's something wrong with you." So they're very much a mix. It's a mix and it's mixed up. So
Yeah.
Who were some of your teammates at South?
Our team back then, I still catch up with them. We had a couple of guys from out of state. One guy from Louisiana named Randy, a guy from Ohio that ended up living in Mobile. His name is Alan Carlisle. I came along right behind Jerry Applegate, which you would know that name. So Jerry went to South and he finished up right before I got there. So, but Jerry and I have been friends, since way back when, since 1990. And as you know, he's local guy right down in there in Birmingham, still working. So we had a solid team, but there weren't any future tour stars there. That a few years later, probably 4 or 5 years, when Heath Slocum showed up. So he was the first big time name player to come out of South in that era that I was in.
When did you kind of decide that golf was going to be your career? Was it while you were at South or after you went back home and were looking for a job?
So, yeah, I went back home and I contemplated going to graduate school, and that was very short lived. So, I went out and got a job and bounced around a little bit, but then started working in the golf industry. So, back there, I started working in golf retail, and that's when I came back over here and very quickly started working in golf retail for Edwin Watts. And then Edwin bought a golf course, and I was asked if I wanted to go there, and I became the assistant professional there in 1990, and that's where it really started for me. I enjoyed it, and it just worked out. Nice working environment, and I always worked for good people. The three serious jobs that I had were all with very good organizations, and started right there working for Edwin Watts, who was great.
And so when from there, did you went to Spring Hill?
Yes. So, right then, if you look back, that's when the trail was opening up golf courses. So in the Mobile area, Magnolia Grove opened up, and within the same 12 to 18 months, Timber Creek opened up, Rock Creek opened up. So there were courses opening, which was creating, all kinds of golf jobs. And me already being an assistant professional, I went and interviewed at Spring Hill because they had an opening for a head professional, and got that job and worked there for 11 years. And it was just a good place to be, working for a small private university like that, good environment and good people. And in my 11 years there, I did not apply for any other jobs. I liked it right where I was until that job at Azalea City came along in 2004. So left Spring Hill on very good terms. Didn't even leave the zip code, gravitated about 2 miles from Spring Hill to Azalea City, and then spent about 20 years there. So it's been good. And Azalea City was a great place to work at.
And that's a city owned, correct?
Yes, everything there owned by the city of Mobile, which is, people talk about government and all that, but I had very few problems or frustrations working with the various administrations, and, just a city of Mobile is a good organization to work for.
I've played that golf course a few times. It's always fun. In fact, I may be wrong, but I believe we had an Alabama Open or two on that golf course back in the day.
1997, yeah. So before I was there,
Yeah.
so I describe, when people ask about Azalea City, I describe it as old style good. It was built in 1957, kind of before golf cars were around, so very walkable. The architect that did it, he is, well known around the country. He's from the Chicago area, named Robert Bruce Harris, but he was a very reputable architect and did a good job. And so all the positives of old style golf course Azalea has, if there are any negatives, it has those as well. Lots of trees, and some of the greens and tees are in corners, so sometimes shade and all that becomes an issue. So, but it is just a good golf course to play at. Very popular, and the locals love it. A lot of loyalty to Azalea City.
Yeah.
Did you ever kind of want to move over to the country club courses to get in on one of those type courses, or were you just happy at the Muni?
I enjoyed public golf, and I've got lots of friends who are PGA professionals, and I think you find out that your personality, you gravitate to where you belong. There are guys that really enjoy that private environment, and that's their thing. And I just knew I was always felt very comfortable in that public environment. So at Azalea City, being a pretty good golf course, we had the full spectrum of golfers came there. You get the guys that could have belonged to the country club in Mobile if they chose to, but they just preferred to play, at a public access course, all the way down. Your recreational golfers that play 5 or 6 times a year would come out and always enjoyed, having that environment, and all golfer types. So we literally had every golfer type at Azalea City.
So, what year did you take over at Azalea City?
That was 2004. So, and I worked there until
Okay.
2023.
Got any good stories from Azalea City?
Um, so that's a good one. And
that you can tell?
Well, there's been a couple. Put it this way, I only had to call the police twice in my tenure there. So every now and again, you mix some 95-degree weather with too much alcohol, and next thing you know, somebody's got a gun, and it's like, whoop, hang on, let's just dial 911 and deal with this. But lots of good stories. Azalea City is well known for having a very active, strong men's club, of which I'm now a member. So we have 150 plus members of the Azalea City Men's Club. So monthly events, we'll get 80 golfers at our regular monthly events, and that makes for some fun times afterwards. Shotgun starts, guys finishing up, friendly games, so a lot of camaraderie. So most of the good stories come from, the 19th hole full of 60, 70 guys having a good time. So, but,
Yeah.
good friendly club in that regard.
You wouldn't happen to have a Todd Bailey story, would you?
Everyone has a Todd Bailey story or three, but yeah, I joke when I still see Todd on a regular basis, but he would come out there once or twice a month, and I always said that at the end of the year I was going to send him a 1099 for his winnings out at Azalea, because he'd show up, make his usual 5, 6 birdies, collect his money, have a
Yeah.
beer or two, and then head back across the bay. Like, see you guys next week. And so
Yeah.
Todd's a part of that whole
So
group, and they enjoy him being there.
until they have to pay him.
Yes, and incidentally, Chris brought up that 1997 Alabama Open that was played at Azalea City. Well, I'll give you one guess who won it by several strokes with a score of like 16 under par, and that was that was one
Fields,
Todd
but
Bailey.
yeah, Todd. Yeah, he won a lot of Alabama Opens back in the day. But yeah,
Yes.
I remember him winning there. I was playing in the tournament.
You were playing for second.
I didn't even play for second.
So, Lawrence, when we were talking the other day, you and I had talked about golf courses, and I know your quest is for 500, or you've played 500 courses over the course of your lifetime.
Yeah, so I passed the 500 courses in 2024. So my 500th course that I played, I was in Wales, and I had to plan it. You get to 497, 498. So I played at Royal Porthcawl in Wales, which is where they played the Women's Open Championship last year. So that was my 500th course. Right now I'm at 521, and so it's important to me. I don't know if anybody else cares, but it's one of those things that I'm passionate about. I've managed to do that in 8 different countries. I've played 26 different states in the United States. So it's a vehicle for travel and just seeing wonderful places. You go there for the golf, but when you travel to the other countries, you see some, magnificent cities and some beautiful sights. So being a tourist is also an important component of that. And you meet so many people from all over. In fact, I was playing in Scotland last year and ended up playing with a couple of guys from Pensacola. That's how those things go. You just get randomly paired with two guys, and so
Yeah.
When did you start keeping up with it?
well, I was at the PGA show one year and sitting around with a bunch of guys, and it turns out I was with some guys that keep track of all that. So I didn't have a list at that time, so I didn't know how many. So I literally went back and made it a project to go into a time vault and start recording all the courses I played. So what you can do now is you know where you've been. So you would go back and Google golf courses in this place and that, and then the golf trips you've been on. So it became a project to list them all. And when I did that, I was already well into the 300s. So then I started actively adding to it. But to get to a number like that, I tell people it's a lot about going on golf trips. I've been to Pinehurst like 5 times. So I've played like 25 to 30 golf courses in that area, but it's on 5 different visits. So you go back and you look at
Mm-hmm.
all the different golf courses in the area and check them off. And then you've got to try and remember the ones that have gone away, because I've got a separate list of, rankings of golf courses that no longer exist, that kind of thing. So
Mm.
I don't know if people realize how much 500 different golf courses actually is. When you think a lot of people play maybe 20 to 30 times a year,
yes,
it takes a while to get to 500.
yes. So a lot of people have gone and done the same thing, and then they come back, a month later and say, "Well, I can only come up with 85 or 110," and so it is a really big number. And I'm in a social media group where there are guys in their 700 and 800s, and there's that kind of thing. So but these guys, they spend a lot of money going to golf destinations and adding to that list. And I'm medium into it. I intentionally play golf courses that I've never played before. So it's a passion, but I try not to be obsessed with it. But I've already got my list for
Mm.
this year, so I'm going to probably add 12 to 15 courses for sure this year to that list.
Where are you going?
I am
What
actually
destinations are you?
So I've got a couple of trips planned. So my main trip is I'll be going to Scotland again in September, and the area I went to has a lot of golf courses. I went there last year, and I played about half of them. So my goal this year is to go back and do it again and try and play some of those other courses that I didn't play. So that trip will be probably 7 golf courses. I also have a couple of smaller trips planned, both here in the United States. I'll be visiting a couple of states I haven't been to. Going to try and play in Nebraska. I'm also going on a South Florida trip, so that's pretty easy to add to the list. So that'll probably be 4 right there. So those little things. But I try to go to Australia once a year, and I do it, the nostalgia courses, go play where you grew up and where you played some junior tournaments, but also go and play some courses that are new, the newer courses that haven't been there that long, and go to places that I haven't been to in Australia, be a tourist and go to a different area of the country and play there. There's some wonderful golf now down in the island of Tasmania, south of, at the very bottom of Australia. So I've been there once and plan on going back and probably add 4, 5, 6 golf courses down there in the next year or so.
Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of buzz about Tasmania now. A lot of the great designers are going down there and building courses.
Yes, so pristine land, and it is by standards, it's a good sized state. It looks little, but it's a good sized island. But there are less than 1 million people there, so there is plenty of room to do almost anything, and a lot of coastal land. So some fabulous golf going on down there. And I've been there twice, but I plan on going back because it's just so beautiful there.
Is it easily accessible?
By plane,
I mean,
yes.
no, Australia's not easily accessible.
Yeah, once you're there, Tasmania is easy to get to and it's easy to get around. So from the bottom of the state to the top is about a 2 hour drive, and east to west is about a 2 hour drive. So you can cover a lot. You can hit up some,
Amen.
a couple of different golf destinations on the same trip, which is what I plan on doing, because there are new golf courses down in Hobart, which is the city at the very south end of the island, and there are some new golf courses in Launceston, which is at the very top end of the island. So, and they're just 2 hour drive apart with beautiful countryside in between.
When you and I were talking briefly the other day, we talked about our love of courses that may not be name brand courses to the golfing public, but finding that gem out in the middle of nowhere. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I'm passionate about golf course architecture in the sense of all kinds of architecture. So whether it's by these name brand guys that we read about, or if it's just the small town golf course where it might have been the best golfer in town way back when designed the course. So I appreciate small golf courses in small towns where it might only be a 9 hole golf course, but it's very important to the community, and you go play it and every hole is a good hole. You play it and there's no poor holes on the course. Um, recent trip to Scotland last year, I played a course that was only 2 miles from Muirfield, and it was a beautiful golf course. And unless you look it up on the map, most people have never heard of it. But you're looking at the same views as you would from a Muirfield, and it is just a good golf course. And less than a mile from there is an old school golf course that is only, I think it's 5,500 yards from the tips. So people go there and play the course with hickory clubs and the old golf balls for fun. But right there, you have 3 golf courses. One I would consider a good golf course. The other one is Muirfield, and in between the two of them, you've got this throwback golf course that was built, in the 1870s, and is the longest hole out there is probably 440 yards long, which I guess back then was a long hole. And they're all sharing the same views. You're looking at beautiful, and playing all 3 of them is wonderful.
Do you want to name drop those courses for all of our
So
listeners?
Yes, so the one that I played that I said was beautiful golf course is called Long Nidri. So right near Muirfield, between near North Berwick area. And then the course next to it was called Kilspindie. So I believe that's the one that's 5,500 yards. And then right next to that, you have Muirfield, which has hosted Open Championships over the years. And there's another course just a few miles away that's only a 9 hole golf course, which I walked on my last visit, but I'm excited to play on my next visit. It has hosted, I think, 5 Open Championships, but the last one it hosted was in the 1880s. It is a 9 hole golf course, and it is in the town common green area where you take your dog to walk and all that. But there's also the town racetrack is there. It's a 2 mile racetrack, so a very big race course for horse racing and all that. And some of the holes are inside the racetrack, and then you go through a little gate, and then you play a loop of 3 or 4 holes, and then come back and finish up inside the racetrack. At the clubhouse, which serves as the clubhouse for the racetrack, and I think it costs £15, so about $20 to go play there. And it's been there since the 1850s or something like that. So, and that's called the Musselburgh
we missed
Link.
that on our trip.
Yes, and
We
I was
missed
told to
that on
play.
our trip.
Yeah, I was told, you have to play this golf course, and I went and walked it, which took all of 25 minutes. But it's great. It's like I'm coming back. So very special, very interesting. If you didn't know the history of it and you drove by, you'd call it a cow pasture, which it pretty much is, but it's a beautiful one.
What where in the U.S. have you got to go play that you know is on your list to do that you feel like you've missed?
Um, so I've played a good bit of golf in on the West Coast, in Oregon, the Bandon Dunes and those places. The area of the country that I have not been to, I played desert golf one trip to play desert golf. So all of that Arizona and those rectangle square states, I have played little or no golf in those. So that's like a void in where I have been. And as you know, there's always been good golf there, but there's been a golf boom in the Dakotas and Wyoming and those places. So, I need to push that to the top of my list. Been to Florida like 40 times, like everybody. So, but need to put some of those courses on the list. That's why I'm working on a trip to Nebraska uh, sometime this year. Haven't put it together yet, but going to try and do that. So I'll get a little close. And I also I've spent a good bit of time in Michigan, but I have not done the Wisconsin and those places, which are beautiful.
I think with the new destination golf today, you have to start saving early, and you have to
Yes,
start booking earlier and earlier.
yes. So they are, forget 2026. If you are trying to go to those places, you're looking at 2027 or beyond. And yes, you definitely need to save up, as they say, because they're great and they do everything well, but they're proud of their golf.
They are. That's one thing that I found about Scotland. You can get pricey in Scotland, but you can find some really fantastic golf courses for less than £100.
Absolutely, yes, and that's what I love. The A-list courses are fun to play. So when I play a trip, I'm trying to play at least two of the name courses, which is great. Courses that have hosted, say, a Scottish Open or an Open Championship, but to mix it in with three or four other local courses where you can possibly get paired up with members and sit down afterwards and have lunch and that kind of thing. That's To me, that's the heart and soul of golf, and that is plentiful in the United Kingdom in general, in any of the countries there. So that's why I love going there. So I'm I've got Northern Ireland on my list for 2027 because I've played England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland, but I have not visited Northern Ireland. So that's the one I'd like to complete.
When I'm doing research for places like Scotland, it's we played our I think we played 8 rounds in 10 days, and then you start reading more about it, and you're like, well, why didn't I think about playing this or going to
Yeah.
this part? And you literally could spend about a year in Scotland and not play every course.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. You'll be playing two courses that are only 20 minutes apart, but you'll drive by another two in between, and they look good, and you're like, well, we should play there, which is why I'm going back to the same area that I went to last year in Scotland, because I think I played 7 courses, but I'm going back to play 7 more, and I still won't be done. There's 22 golf courses in about a 15-mile stretch along the coastline of where I'm going.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
Wow.
no offense to like places like Bandon or Streamsong, but you can play more golf for about less than you can pay to play 5-day trip to Bandon, and you can get there just about as quick to Scotland or.
Yes.
Northern
And I've got
Ireland.
golf friends that we're trying to plan a trip back to Ireland, and you know, from anywhere, so from Alabama, but it's easier and more cost effective to go to Ireland than it is to say Bandon, which no knock on Bandon. I've been there, it's fabulous, but it's hard to get to, and they're proud of their golf.
Mm.
Whereas you go to Ireland and or Scotland, it's great, and you're going to spend the same amount of money or less and have a wonderful time.
Yeah.
What what is it about Muni golf, or the you mentioned the 9-hole course in you know no name Nebraska that really kind of appeals to you, other than the price?
Yes. No, I think it's, I look at the whole picture, I worked in municipal government for 20 years, and you get an understanding how the importance of local government. And you go to a small town, and there's one near Mobile, Hurley, Mississippi, and they have a really good 9-hole golf there. It's called Whispering Pines, but the population of Hurley is 3,000 people, and you've got this 9-hole golf course there, and you realize how integrated it is into the community and how important it is, and it's just a big deal. And they're fortunate to have it, but they're proud of it, along with their other athletic complexes and their high school and their high school football team. And those things seem to take on a big, oversized value in those small communities. And, I think everyone likes the old school, small town, downtown area, those kind of things. And I just find having the golf course as part of that is very gratifying and important and wonderful that, you know, people have an opportunity to at least be exposed to golf at a young age in their small town. And who knows where it will take them. They may end up a member at the country club in the big cities, and all of that's great. But it's having those very humble, foundations to where you learn to play golf, and everybody gets a chance to do it.
Chris, we've heard so many of those type stories. Don Shirey, who grew up on 9-hole courses, not great golf courses, who ended up going on to do great things in golf. You don't have to grow up at the high dollar country club to make a career in golf and enjoy the game and get into it. It's amazing, and I think that's one of the nice things about golf is, you can come from anywhere and do something in golf, or learn to love the game at a cow pasture, or the great highly manicured country club.
It doesn't
That's true.
necessarily make you a complete player. And a quick story, but Kari Webb, who was the most accomplished female golfer to come out of Australia, she grew up in an environment like that, and she started winning golf tournaments when she was 12 years old. And the 9-hole golf course where she
Mhm.
grew up didn't have any bunkers. So the club decided to put in one bunker just so that Kari Webb would have a chance to learn how to play bunker shots, because she's already winning golf tournaments, on a state. And, at age 14, she won a national championship as an amateur. Uh, but she grew up at a 9-hole golf course that when she started playing had no bunkers. And when she was the Australian amateur champion, it had one bunker on the whole golf course. So goes to show. And she has a beautiful golf swing and the complete player, and from that background, which I think's cool.
Have you got her on speed dial?
No, I've played golf with her, of all places. We both grew up in the same state, different parts, and she won a big championship at Brisbane Golf Club, and we ended up playing golf together in Mobile, Alabama. So we had a good bit to talk about. So I have a couple of good pictures of Kari and myself, and we have played golf together. But it was kind of it was an interesting day to walk around and talk about where you've played and those kind of things, and how just to drive around Brisbane, because she's a small town person, and she talked about coming to Brisbane scared the heck out of her because she'd have to drive from this side of town to this side of But I guess she dealt with it pretty well.
Good
That's,
story.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is good. How many courses in Alabama have you played? Have you got your list?
I've got it and I have it categorized. So I've played over 100 in Alabama. So there's still quite a few to go, but Alabama's strong, Florida's strong, Australia's strong. So right there we have about 300 golf courses. And so I've got a little over, probably another 200 everywhere else. I will go out of my way if I'm going somewhere, if I'm driving from South Alabama to North Alabama, I will detour and go out of my way and call a friend and say, "Hey, I've been talking about coming out there and playing. How about next week?" And so just to get another one on the list.
What are some of your favorite Alabama courses?
Well, if we start at the top, I think Shoal Creek is as good as anything out there. It's a great course. It's the best golf course in Alabama, but you could take it anywhere, and it is truly a top 100, just an excellent golf course. Um, you know, I think the Birmingham area is great for golf. The seventh or eighth best golf course in Birmingham is a really good golf course. However you choose to rank them. Um, I do like the variety of the golf courses in Alabama. From down on the coast to play at Kiva Dunes. Jerry Pate design. You can come to Birmingham
Mm-hmm.
and play. A different Jerry Pate design. Go to Tuscaloosa, and they're all different and they're all good. And then you can head on up to the Huntsville area and play a course like the Ledges, which is totally different type of golf course, but they're all here in Alabama. So we do have good access to golf. We have a lot of good golf courses here and a lot of variety, which I think is great. So that's one of my favorite things, and that's without mentioning the trail, which is, the trail is the trail and it's fabulous.
Sure.
We love the trail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give us 3 courses in Alabama that people may not know about that are right up there that you enjoy.
Okay, that's a good question. So you're making me rack my brain. So let's go with 3 municipal courses. I'm going to stay in the municipal world, but I think that, well, people have probably heard of Old Colony and Ballantrae, which are excellent municipal golf courses. But I think in Florence, Blackberry Trail is a good golf course for, being a locals municipal golf course. You only have to drive 20 minutes to Muscle Shoals, and now you are playing at the lakes course over there, Cypress Lakes, which is
Cypress Lake.
an excellent municipal golf course. I have to say Azalea City but a lot of people are aware of Azalea City. So those are several right there that are good golf courses. And I just think it's nice that you can go to different communities and play the different golf courses that are there. And, you can have your favorites and different people look for different things. But we have good access to good golf courses. So we are fortunate here in the state of Alabama.
I'm a big proponent of golf in the Muscle Shoals, Florence area, public access with the trail courses, Cypress Lakes and Blackberry. I mean, that's as good of 4 courses, for an area our size that you'll find probably anywhere around.
I agree. Yeah. So they're top shelf. Then you go to other parts of the state, especially the tourist type areas. Baldwin County Baldwin County is a good size, but they have a lot of golf courses there. A lot of access, good quality golf. So if you want to get, I live in the Mobile area, but if you want to jump in your car and drive 45 minutes, you can play some excellent quality golf right there.
What is the golf scene like in the Mobile Gulf Coast area, in your opinion?
So in my whole time there, I would describe it as being very stable, and stable in a medium to good way. The trail was a big thing, 54 holes at Magnolia Grove back in 1992. That was a game changer. But what's happened in Mobile is we haven't had the overbuilding of golf during those boom times. But when things went downhill in the late 2000s, the golf courses didn't go away. We've had a couple that have closed up and been repurposed, but we have one golf course there now which was closed, and now they're getting ready to reopen it, and that's Cypress Creek, which people will know as the old Linksman golf course owned by Edwin Watts. That will be open this summer. So that's one that went away in the early 2000s, but now will be back. So golf in Mobile is very stable. And I think we have the right number of golf courses in Mobile. And then, as I mentioned, you don't have to travel very far to go to the Mississippi Gulf Coast to play, where you have the casino courses within, a short drive. And then you go the other direction to Baldwin County, and there's probably a dozen options in Baldwin County to play. So if you draw the big circle around Mobile, there's a lot of golf.
Chris, how much have you played down on the coast?
I've played a little bit. I've played a few of those courses that he's talking about.
I guess Kraft Farms probably was the first destination course down there, wasn't it, Lawrence? Is that safe to say?
Yes. So it opened in the late 80s, probably 87. So when they opened, they had 18 holes, which became 27 and then to 36. But Kraft Farms was a big deal, for Gulf Shores. And then right behind that, Kiva Dunes opened in the very early 90s, followed by the Peninsula in about 1995. So all of a sudden, they went from having Gulf Shores Golf Club, Glen Lakes Golf Club, and the State Park Golf Course. And then within a 10-year period, you added, 5 more golf courses, 5 more 18 holes in a short period of time. And that's before you went over to Perdido Key, where Perdido Bay was always there and hosted the tour event. And then Lost Key popped up there. So, and that all happened within a 10-year period.
You mean Lost Ball?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I was going with the name.
Lost Ball.
No,
Lost Ball.
the entrance says "Welcome to Lost Key," but we all know what that means.
I like that golf course, but it can be pretty challenging if you're not hitting that tee shot very straight.
Yeah, try playing a 36-hole stroke play event there. You may change your mind. That is a challenge.
Yeah.
Well, great. Chris, got anything else for Lawrence? We've kept him on here for 50 minutes talking golf.
Yeah, Lawrence, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for spending some time and sharing your stories about growing up in Australia and here in Alabama, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And
Lawrence.
Yeah, I came to Mobile to go to university there. I came back, and now I'm proud to tell people that it's my home now. So good place and good people. That's why I'm still here.
And we're glad that you're up here in Florence, taking care of the grandbabies for a while.
Yep, and I'll continue to do that.
Lawrence, we appreciate it again.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Talk to you soon.
We want to thank Lawrence Auer for being our guest this week on the Carbon Podcast. I hope y'all enjoyed his stories, and I enjoyed talking with Lawrence, if nothing else, for his kind of Southern/Aussie accent we got for an hour. So again, thanks to Lawrence for joining us on the Car Barn.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining this week. We appreciate everyone listening. The Cart Barn is still continuing to grow, and we appreciate that. If you haven't, please go and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would really help us out. And catch us again next week, as we'll bring you another edition of the Cart Barn Podcast.